Good morning and welcome to StudyIQ, my dear friends. I am Prashant Mamani. I hope you all are doing good. Today is 21st April 2020. Day is Tuesday. I have a very interesting quote for you guys. It does not matter how slowly you go as long as you do not stop. And this is the most important thing. Many a times it happens that our speed will slow down for various different reasons, right? Many a times we are not at our peak. When I say peak, I mean to say in peak of our performance. When many times we are at our lows as well. When we are trying to do something new at that point of time as well, our speed will not that we will not be in our top speed, right? Things will move a bit slowly, but that's all right as far as you are moving ahead. That's the most important thing. With this difference, we have 7 articles on our table. We are going to go through all of them. So let's crack on. Now, I have a good news for all of you. We have launched a smart course, and this smart course is for UPSC. We have covered the prelims as well as mains examination. EMI is available, and to find out more about it, do check out our application. Download our app from Google Play Store, and you will get all information about our smart course on our app. To download the PDF of today's lecture, do check out my Telegram channel. Please make sure that you share this lecture with other students. Hit the like button if you have learned something from today's discussion. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Dear friends, the first article that we have today is about Kerala, what Kerala can learn from Singapore. Now, if you go through the history of Kerala, when I say history, I mean to say recent past. From last 3 years, Kerala has faced various different challenges. Nipah virus, then it saw 2 floods back-to-back, 2018, 2019. And the latest one is coronavirus, of course. And this is not for just Kerala, for the whole world. But still, Kerala is doing reasonably well compared to other states, right? We know that Kerala was the first state to get infection, and Kerala has done a good job. Now, Kerala is thinking to relax this lockdown to a great extent. And if you go through today's news items, you will find this letter written by Home Ministry to the Chief Secretary of Kerala that they should be very careful. It is not the right time to give a full-fledged freedom to the people, because this can come back. And that's what happened with Singapore as well. I'm sure you are aware about this thing. And of course, we have discussed about this thing about Singapore, that Singapore did very well in putting a firm lead on new infections, but it has subsequently seen an explosive uptick in cases and death events. And we don't want to see the same thing here in our country. The state of Kerala has won worldwide acclaim for its deft handling of this catastrophes by mostly deploying domestic resources. Now, talking about domestic resources, few days ago we were talking about this thing, that the reason why Kerala has this big domestic resources is because of not just one government, but from quite a long time, the government of Kerala has been active. Not just this current government, various different parties who were in power, they have worked for the betterment of the people of Kerala. And, they have expanded these basic services like education, health, skills, and other things. And not just the government, the people have played a very important role as well. So what we can see now is all the credit goes to the decades of past investment in health and education by both public as well as private sector. At present, Kerala has an impressive tracking and surveillance system. It has set up testing kiosks just like South Korea, something similar to South Korea, not just like, but something similar to South Korea. It has institutes that are ready for plasma trials. It has also enacted a law on epidemic control, and community kitchen are also working there to feed the poor people. The challenge is the flight of returning students and workers as foreign countries become inhospitable for non-nationals. We were talking about this thing a few days ago. Remember that nearly 2 million Keralites, they are living in West Asia, and out of this 2 million, 1 million are living in UAE alone. And as per IMF report, West Asia is going to see a decline of 3% in its GDP growth. So there are chances like a big number of Keralites, they will come back to Kerala, and it's their right as well. They can come back anytime. But the thing is, something similar happened with Singapore as well. When Singaporean people living in different parts of the world, when they came back with few of them came back with this disease. So this is a challenge, and we know the first case in our country that happened in Kerala was again an imported case, of course. So if more people will come back, then this is going to be a challenge. So this is something that Kerala should prepare itself for. And to respond to COVID-19, Kerala will need to go full scale in testing and implement isolation and better hygiene practices. When the pandemic ends, it would be a mistake for activities to return to business as usual. This is a big mistake that was conducted by Singapore, and we don't want to see the same thing in our country. And this is the main reason why Ministry of Home Affairs has reversed its decision. Earlier on, e-commerce were given a full permission that you can go for non-essential items as well, but then later on Ministry of Home Affairs realized that by giving a full permission to e-commerce suppliers it will basically it will means there will be no benefit of this long lockdown if you give full permission. So Kerala government, of course, they have done many things, but they have to understand this thing that going full-fledged is going to be a big disaster. We cannot take this risk. What they can do now is they can make the system a bit more robust. They can utilize this time. If they are having a lead, they can share things with other states, or they can, prepare themselves for future challenges. This is the best thing that they should do. Moving on to second item. This one is about Arogya Setu app. Now, again, this article is also talking about the same thing, that post-lockdown, the threat of COVID-19 will continue. We have to end lockdown, right? There should be an end date to this lockdown. But lockdown or ending lockdown does not mean that Corona is gone forever. Right, we have to be careful that it can come back anytime, and we have to be a bit more careful. What China did to control people, or to first of all to make people aware about this thing, and to make people aware about other people who are affected by this thing, China came out with an phone app, and people started using it, and after that China made this phone app necessary. It was like it became a sort of ticket or for a license. Like if you want to go out, then you have to take permission. If you want to step onto this public transport, then you need to have this application. It will make sure if you are okay, if you don't have this coronavirus, then only you will be allowed. So this article is saying that the same thing happened with this Arogya Setu app as well. Arogya Setu app is helping people, of course, no doubt, right? The app is designed in such a way that if someone has got coronavirus, then you will know about that person, because that person's details will be there with the government. So you will also know about that person if that person comes near you. So this is how this app works, right? In a very it's a very brief explanation of this app, but I'm sure you would be aware about this thing. If you want to know more about it, then we have videos on our channel in English as well as in Hindi language, right, made by two different faculties. So to find out all about this Arogya Setu, you can just check out those videos. Now, heightened epidemic surveillance by the government could lead to an increased risk of institutionalized surveillance of individuals, and this is a matter of concern. Remember, when Aadhaar was introduced, it was a voluntary thing, but then it was made compulsory. Same thing can happen with Arogya Setu as well. That at present we are using it for our safety. At present we are using it for awareness and things. But then government can make it can enforce this thing. It can make it something compulsory, that if you want to get access to basic services or amenities and other things, then you need to have this app, or else you will not get these amenities and services. So this is just a sort of it's not that government is definitely going to do the same thing, but these are the possibilities that we need to be careful of. And Arogya Setu app has been criticized for not complying with data protection principles of data minimization and purpose limitation, transparency and accountability, all of which are crucial to protecting the privacy of its user. This is point number one. Point number two is this one, that the government is also at the liberty to revise the terms of privacy policy at its discretion, and has done so without notifying its user. So government can change rules of the game anytime it likes. So this is a matter of concern as well. So this article is talking about this thing, that it can be misused or it will be made compulsory. So that's the biggest fear. And government will do surveillance on us and other things. And in India, we don't have a comprehensive data protection law and we don't have a surveillance law. So I think the solution is given here. If we look at it, if we read between the lines, then we can find the solution. The solution is, I think, that we need to have a robust data protection law as well as surveillance law. Once we have both these laws, then if government is making Arogya Setu compulsory, then as well it's not going to be that harmful. It's going to be for the betterment of us, isn't it? So first we need to build this data protection and surveillance law, and then we can, of course, at present government is not forcing you to download this app. It's totally your choice, but before making it compulsory, government should work on these two things. Moving on to third item. Recently, Government of India has made some changes with the foreign direct investment, particularly if this foreign direct investment is coming from a country that is sharing its land boundary with our country. And this is question number 1 for you. Can you give me the name of all the countries with which we share a land boundary? Right? Stick your answer in the comment section. I'm not asking for a number. I'm asking for the names of these countries. Right? So the Government of India has made these changes that if money is coming from any country that is sharing its border with India, then it will not be automatic. Automatic basically means that you cannot directly come here and invest. You have to take permission from the government, and only after getting green signal from the government you would be able to invest your money in our economy. So the question is, why government is doing this thing? Means so far we know that government is trying to make everything easy for various different businesses, but here we can see that government is trying to make things a bit more difficult for businesses. So why? The main reason is opportunistic takeover. So what opportunistic takeover is all about? In simple words, as we all know, because of COVID-19, value of a company is going to go down because companies are going to make huge losses, right? They are going to go through some rough waters, as we know. So let's imagine that a company that company's value was, let's say, 100 crore rupees, but due to coronavirus and after coronavirus, this whole lockdown and other things, the value of this company is, let's say, 70 crore rupees only. Let's say the share of this company per share price was, let's say, 1,000 rupees, right, per share, but now it is just, let's say, for just argument's sake, 50 rupees, right, share. So basically you can say there is a drastic drop in the value of this company. So people from China, those people who have money, what they can do is they can use their money power and they can take over this whole company. So this is what opportunistic takeover is all about, right? So we don't want to do that. We don't want the ownership of our companies to go in Chinese hand, and we are not the only country. Italy, Spain, France, Australia, and the other countries, they have done the same thing. I think USA is also doing the same thing. If you go through Brookings India study, then China has invested some $26 billion in our country in various different sectors, and this is not just all of a sudden. It took a bit of long time for China to invest this big money, but Chinese people, they have money, and the biggest fear is that there is no line, right, when it comes to China. Means it's very difficult to say whether a company is a private company or Chinese government run company, because in front it may look like it's a private company, but if you dig a bit deeper, then you find that this company is totally managed by security agencies and Chinese government. So this is number one threat, and Chinese capital is invested not just in brick and mortar industries in our country. You find Chinese companies in technology and fintech startups and other places like Alibaba, Tencent. They have invested in Paytm, Swiggy, Ola, Zomato, Big Basket, and there are other other companies as well. Now, this article is arguing that government should have allowed greenfield investments. Greenfield investment means an investment means brownfield is already a company is active in our country, and then Chinese company is investing money in that particular business. So that is brownfield. But greenfield is like starting a company from the scratch. So let's say if you are making, if you have a company, let's say in China, or let's say in UK, and a company of UK is building its production capacity or something in India, then we can call it a brownfield project. Beg your pardon, not brownfield, sorry, greenfield project, because it's altogether a new thing, right? They are developing a new thing over here, the new factory over here. So that's what greenfield is, that you start from the scratch. So greenfield investments should have been kept out of the purview. That's what this article is arguing. But I think MHA might have sensed some sort of issues with this greenfield as well, and this is the reason why each and everything is covered. Let me throw some more light. A few points are not covered in this editorial, so I would like to throw some more light on this topic. That, let's say, if a Chinese company is investing a company in UK. Now this UK based company is investing in France, and this French company is investing in India. Then as well you need to take a green signal from the government, because you have China somewhere, even if it is at number 2 or number 3 or any part of this whole chain. If China is there, or if any other neighboring country's investment is there, then Indian government should know about it, and you need to take permission for it. And SEBI has also started going a bit deep into this custodian banks to find out more about this foreign portfolio investment. So if FPI, if you need permissions, and means SEBI has asked various different custodian banks to provide details regarding this FPI investors. Then we have one article from Korean Peninsula, or it's about Korean Peninsula. South Korea's President Moon Jae-in, he's the president, and his party had a great victory in recently held elections. So that's good news for this South Korean government, and President Moon's regime is quite friendly with our country as well. If you go through South Korea, then South Korea last year was struggling through some protests because of this slowing growth and corruption allegations and other things. But things have changed because of this coronavirus. Now, if you go through the whole history of South Korea from like 3 years maybe, 2018, 19 and 20. Then in 2018, I think it was the starting of 2018, when this Moon Jae-in, he became the president, and his tenure is I think it was in 2017. I don't remember the exact year. But I know one thing for sure, and that is that he is an excellent diplomat. He has this extraordinary diplomatic abilities, and he is the first president to have a thorough meeting with a proper meeting with Kim Jong-un. You know it very well that these two countries are arch rivals. They used to be one nation, just like India and Pakistan. But now they are, this North Korea and South Korea, they had a war back in 1950s. This is known as Korean War, and it ended in 1953. South Korea is supported by USA. North Korea was supported by USSR. At present, China is the best friend of North Korea. And what I'm trying to tell you here is basically that for the first time since 1953 till now, the first meeting that took place between two leaders of these two nations is this one that happened between Mr. Moon and Kim Jong-un. They had a meeting at this demilitarized zone, and this is very unique. They stepped on each other's land, and that was quite a unique gesture. And the whole aim is to make sure that this North Korea, it drops its nuclear weapon, right? So Korean Peninsula's denuclearization is the main aim. USA is also an arch rival of North Korea, and Mr. Trump had his first meeting, and this is again a very historic meeting that we are talking about. It took place back in 2018, June 2018 to be precise, in Singapore. For the first time, a president of USA met the leader of North Korea officially, and this meeting was the first step, and the second meeting, Hanoi Summit. Can you give me the name of the country where you find this Hanoi? Hanoi is capital of a particular country. So give me the name of that country. This is your question number 2. So Trump and Kim, they had a meeting in February 2019, but this meeting is considered as a failure. This meeting was considered as just a sort of a make-up thing rather than delivering any proper result. But anyway, What North Korea is asking for is to remove these crippling economic sanctions, and Washington or USA is saying that you drop your weapons, right, and we will relieve you from this sanctions. So this is the main issue, right? Someone is this one party is asking one thing, other party is asking other thing, and I think so far this leader, President Moon, has tried to achieve a balance. This is not something that you will solve in 1 or 2 days or 1 or 2 years. It will take time, right? You have to give time to this sort of issues, but I hope that things are going in right direction, and this coronavirus is again a ray of hope for these nations. Like they can cooperate with each other in name of humanity, and this will mark as a very important milestone. Moving on to third item, nurturing air power to meet rising demand. Very interesting article. Air power. First of all, air power is the total aviation capability of a nation, military as well as civilian put together. Now, if you go through the history of our air power, then we have demonstrated, and our air power is quite strong. We have evacuated so many people from Wuhan, then from Herat in Afghanistan, right? Secret mission was conducted, and consulate staff were evacuated in recent past. At present, medical supplies, medical samples, medicines, equipment, so many things in domestic area is supplied to various different parts of our country back and forth. This is done by our aerial assets that we have, and it has played a very important role in building brand India too. Back in 1957, 1978, India helped Sri Lanka during their floods, and 1991, we helped Bangladesh during their cyclone. During this 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami, India helped various different countries, and we provided 8 helicopters to Sri Lanka at that point of time. In Germany as well, Berlin, this logistical campaign back in 1948-49, big campaigns, big transportation was done by our aerial air power. You know this famous film of Akshay Kumar, this whole invasion of Saddam Hussein, how he invaded this Kuwait back in 1990, and it is said that some 1,11,000, or in some documents it is said 1,76,000 Indians were evacuated by this 488 flights in just 2 months from Oman to Mumbai. So we have done this air power has played a very important role back in 2013 as well. This Uttarakhand flash flood, we saved some 23,892 pilgrims in a week, and this is considered as the biggest helicopter evacuation in the history. So we have achieved our air force, or when I say air force, I mean to say our air power has played a very important role in fighting this various different problematic periods of our country. And at present, the biggest challenge in front of our country is that most of our helicopters, our medium and heavy lift assets are foreign sourced. They're expensive and they are going to die in near future. Means you have a validity of a helicopter, of an aircraft, then you need to replace it with the new one, isn't it? So we have some Dhruv and Chetak and Cheetah helicopters, right? Apart from that, big, medium and heavy lift assets are not going to last that long. And to buy new ones, we need money. And at present, money is something that we are going to be in short, isn't it? Because money will be spent for this coronavirus thing. So Ministry of Defense has to be very persuasive in getting money from Finance Ministry, because this air power is helping us at present as well to fight this coronavirus, and it will help us in future as well. So we need to have air power. We have to maintain as well as improve our air power. So that's the main message of this article. The occasion to revisit the sovereign's role. This one is about the role of government. Now, COVID-19 is forcing a paradigm shift, and it is not just in government but in everything, every single thing, right? I don't think there is any person who is untouched and unaltered. There is no life that is not unaltered by this coronavirus epidemic, right? Directly, indirectly, in severe or in light form, directly, we are affected by this whole thing that is going on around us. Now, these macro things like global warming is going on for a very long period of time, but we are not taking this that seriously. because this is something that is happening, but it will impact us in future. But coronavirus is something that is happening right now, and it can push the whole world into deep recession as well. Supply and demand contractions will take place. Political systems, economic architectures, cultural mores, everything is going to change, and in fact it has changed. We cannot hug now, we cannot handshake, we cannot visit people, right? We cannot allow visitors to come to our home, and there are so many other things culturally, politically, economically. Things are going on, things are changing. In fact, Prime Minister Modi also said that we have to find new ways, the way our whole system is working. BJP General Secretary was talking about elections. He said that voting is going to change, right? Campaigns are going to change. Maybe e-voting will be a thing in the future. We don't know, but things are going to change. It's never going to be that easy. And for a very long period of time, we have been discussing this thing in recent past as well, that if you go back in 1940s, 50s, and then 60s, 70s, 80s, then you find that government was quite active. Government was there everywhere. But then later on, gradually government started heading towards backbench, and private companies started playing a very important role in everything, or the products that we like, or the products that we can find, and how government will make its policies, and so many things. And we have seen some negative side of this thing as well. And because of this thing, we find we have poor healthcare, education, and other things, because it is all about money now, isn't it? We want best facilities. Government cannot provide it. Private company will provide it to you. So for that, you need money. So it was all about, I think, we became very material centric as well as money centric. And when I say we, I'm not just talking about India. I'm talking about the whole world. And this article is talking about directly, indirectly, the whole world, right? The whole system. But now, this is the time, right, that government should take a front seat, and government should take control of the things. I'm not saying that government should be there everywhere, but at least all those necessary items like healthcare, education, and other things, food, etc. These are the things that government should provide, right? So state, the whole, if you go through the name, the occasion to revisit the sovereign's role. Like earlier on, in ancient India, there was this quote that if for a poor, right, the only solace is a king. If a poor is dying because of hunger, then it is the responsibility of the king to make sure that that person is looked after very well. In the same way, it is the responsibility of government to now take a front seat and control the things, right? All this money-centric thing should take a second bench, or maybe third bench. But first bench should be welfare of people. So that's what this article is all about. The last one is about women. Now, the invisible face of the fallout. Every time if we go through some sort of catastrophes or epidemics or some sort of disasters, we find that women are the most affected. Back in 2004, this Indian Ocean tsunami, women were, so many women died because they were not having this life skills like swimming and climbing, because they are mostly busy with, or they are kept busy with some other things, right? Like cooking and looking after the loved ones and other things. Women also faced abuse by men, and hygiene challenges were also faced by women in this post-tsunami camps. And it's not just in India. If you go in USA, then you find that families headed by women are the most affected after this tornadoes and other things. WHO says that around 70% of world's health workers are women, and 79% of nurses are women, and they are very active in this fight against coronavirus. So we need to protect them, right? And they are under this highly vulnerable at present. They are fighting right there. They are on the battlefield in this battle against coronavirus. We have some million plus accredited social health activists, ASHA workers, who are an integral part of its our health system. And ASHAs who work at ground level are reporting incidents of attacks while on COVID-19 duty. So those people who are doing this thing, they should be punished, right? Those people who are harassing and beating ASHA workers. When it comes to discrimination, we find this thing in families as well, but work from home. There are so many working ladies right now, they are working from home, but extra responsibilities is on their shoulder, right, to cook food and then other things. So even today in very educated households as well, we don't find that equal distribution of work. And this article is also talking about a very interesting thing, that chances of women getting depression is quite high because of various different changes or phases through which they go. Premenstrual syndrome, then during pregnancy, after pregnancy, and then they have this postpartum depression among new mothers, as well as premenopausal, menopausal symptoms, etc. So they need more TLC, tender loving care, and this culture of silence should go. Like they should ask for their right, or when they need TLC, they we need to fight this culture of silence, because this silence has killed so many women, and that's what this article is all about. And we can deploy. The solution is that we can assign this ASHA workers to specifically address women's welfare during this pandemic. We also discussed about this thing a few days ago. Remember that incident of violence against women has gone up. And one of my colleague, Joy, she is going to bring out a lecture today on this topic, on this pandemic and lockdown and its impact on this, that violence, number of this domestic abuses has gone up. News items, I want you guys to go through it, because today we have gone through so many articles. So very quickly, speed of virus infections slows, doubling time, rises in 18 states. That's a good news. As centre frowns, Kerala steps back on easing curbs. Police detained 59 for violence over quarantine roundup. Vijay Mallya loses UK High Court appeal. Avoid hate speech, expat Indians told by Ambassador Pawan Kumar. China says India's trade curbs are against WTO principles. Aditya Nath's father passed away. That's a very sad news. And as a CM, he is duty bound to stay in his state, so he won't be able to attend his father's funeral. And you can imagine, as a son, the pain that he would be going through. And I'm not promoting any political party here. This is just one example here. There are so many people. I'm saying that because this coronavirus, so many people are suffering. So I hope this whole thing ends as soon as possible. This whole epidemic goes away, right? It is punishing us so badly. But we cannot, let our hope die. Blood banks running on low reserves seek urgent help, and Europe begins easing lockdown step. Whether it is the right direction, or it is moving in right direction or not, that's a question that Europe as well as the world needs to ask EU. And that's everything in today's discussion, dear friends. I will see you soon with daily financial news analysis. Till then, enjoy your studies. May God bless you all. Stay safe. Jai Hind.